As this offseason starts to really crank up, now that we know what happened with Shohei Ohtani, where he's going, the Cubs have a lot of decisions to make. What's their next move? Well, first, I want to talk to you guys and Chad and find out what happened with this Ohtani contract, because apparently the Dodgers are in the mix still for a lot of the guys that the Cubs are vying for. And then we'll talk about the Cubs as well. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like and subscribe, hit the bell, and give us a thumbs up if you're a Cubs fan and you like Cubs content. And let's get into this thing right now. Go Cubs. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Mick Gillispie. He's Chad Anderson. This chat is real. I'm broadcaster Mick on social media. And Chad, we got so much to talk about. I know we want to put this Ohtani stuff behind us, but I mean, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. Like, he's only going to make like $2 million until the end of the contract, and they're just going to like roll up a Brinks truck and drop off like a lottery winnings for him. I mean, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's going to make $2 million a year for 10 years. And then that's going to leave $680 million owed to him at the end of the contract. So the money's being deferred. And for 10 years after that, he's going to make $68 million a year. So he's basically going to get a check for 20 years from the Dodgers. It's going to be $2 million a year for the first 10 years, $68 million a year for the last 10 years. And apparently this was Ohtani's idea. And Ohtani said, hey, I want to be competitive. I want to make sure you've got the financial freedom and the luxury to be able to go make other deals so that we win World Series. I'm not here to take all the money and to, make us crippled because of my contract. I want the team to win. So you got to give a lot of credit to Ohtani for having the foresight and being that way. Because I started thinking about it, Mick. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people in Los Angeles who make $2 million a year. Like, he's not a special character by making $2 million a year. He basically has said, I'm sure, I don't know his exact financials, but I mean, I'm sure he's doing just fine. But he doesn't have like private jet money at $2 million a year. You know what I mean? And it's just different. And so kudos to him. But, I asked you about him. Is he a villain with Major League Baseball? Like, is he a guy now that people are going to look around and hate? Because if the Dodgers have the freedom and the flexibility to go out and now shop and get Yamamoto, or if they're able to trade for Glasnow and get Yamamoto, right, they could really start bolstering this roster bigger and bigger and bigger than what we could have ever imagined when we were looking at the roster a couple of days ago with Ohtani added. Now you throw this in here. And for those of you wondering or thinking about, well, this isn't fair. Well, remember, Major League Baseball doesn't have a salary cap. Really, the only thing they do is they have tiers of taxing. So luxury tax and things of that sort. So on this contract, they are going to get hit for $46 million a year from what's called the CBT, the competitive balance tax. So they're going to get hit with $46 million there, not the full $70 million. So again, huge discount for the Dodgers. The way the collective bargaining agreement is worded and written, deferred money is limitless. There's no impact there. If somebody wants to do it, they can. It's happening. It's being done. It's a very creative way to make things work. But man, the Dodgers are in we're not just going to win. Remember, the only World Series they've won is the COVID one.
Right.
And I think they're kind of looking around going, enough's enough. Like, we've got it. We've got the resources. We got all this. One thing I haven't looked at though, Mick, yet is $68 million in 10 years. Well, as we know, cash is a depreciating asset.
Right.
68 million today is not the same 68 million in 10 years. It's 50 million or whatever it is, but obviously not chump change. But it's still a good discount for the Dodgers by doing it that way.
Right.
So I don't know. It's interesting.
I just thought, like looking at it, I'm like, okay, it kind of felt outside of the rules, I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. And I mean, I'm still like trying to take all of this in. But at the same time, I mean, this guy makes so much money off of like endorsements and everything else. Like he doesn't care. Like he's got tons of money. Think about the tax burden that he's going to have. But does this like help him skip like California's high taxes? Like
that's it. In 10 years, he could move out before he gets 68
right.
million.
I mean, he might have just like wiggled around the highest state taxes in the union or amongst them, right? And you said to me, and you deal with numbers every day. You're like the smart move. Maybe this is something that you'll see a lot of other teams do, and kind of pivoting back to the Cubs. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it. I heard that the Dodgers were in the Yamamoto sweepstakes, and I thought, well, with what, right? And then Bruce Levine, out of Chicago, a guy that we like, said that, they may be in the mix to trade for Tyler Glasnow with Tampa Bay. They got to move him. Cubs have obviously had discussions on that as well. Dylan Cease, former Cub minor leaguer with the White Sox, 2 years of control. Dodgers mentioned there too. I mean, I'm sure at this point you'd probably throw in anybody because you want to win now. You got to win now.
Yeah, you do. And Mick, where does this go for the Cubs? Yeah, that's as a fan, again, where does this go for the Cubs? Because the Dodgers have flexed their muscle and their creativity and signed a monster contract. The way the contract is structured gives them, as you were talking about, the freedom and the flexibility for a guy like Yamamoto. They've got, amazingly, the prospects to still make a deal for Glasnow. I mean, if you're the Cubs, a franchise that has never, not once, signed a $200 million contract, like, where do you go? Because these guys are just sucking up all the free inventory that's out there right now.
Right.
And they're spending like it's going out of style. I mean, they're printing money like it's the American government. And I'm like, I don't get it. These guys they keep coming up with resources, right? And so tell us, I mean, what do the Cubs do here? Like, are the Cubs in jeopardy here of like swinging and missing in this offseason because they're just going to get outbid at this point?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's still a long game to be played. And now that every team has kind of seen how this deal's structured, I think that it could really give teams like the Cubs an idea of how they could kind of use the same logic to make some deals, right? Cody Bellinger is going to be coveted by Toronto. We're hearing a connection there where the Blue Jays have now pivoted towards Bellinger. The Cubs are going to be there. I bet the Cubs are going to wait back, see what the deal looks like, and decide whether they want to, outbid whoever. I could see them swooping in on this one late. And then the Giants, there's a lot of pressure out in San Francisco for this team to do something because, the Giants are falling further and further behind their arch rival, the Dodgers, right? The Cubs have the infrastructure to win. They've got the players in the farm system. They've got the core of guys at the big league level. I think they need starting pitching. At least to bridge the gap to some of the guys like Cade Horton and Ben Brown, who you hope are going to be able to come to the big leagues and have success. But starting pitching's obviously at a premium, and with Marcus Stroman's opt-out, the Cubs are going to have to do something in that area, right? The crazy thing is that today they were talking about the teams in the mix for Yamamoto. It's the Mets and the Yankees, the Giants and the Dodgers, right? So the Cubs aren't even in there. This guy's going to probably, take advantage of this market that I feel like in a way has reset itself with this Ohtani deal. And maybe $350 million or even more than that for Yamamoto, who we haven't seen pitch, but I'm pretty confident he's going to come to the United States and be extremely successful. Japanese baseball it used to be kind of hit or miss Now these guys come over and they're really good. I mean, they're really good. I'm going to talk about that with Tim Wilkin on the MLB Baseball Scout podcast, who was the former Cubs scouting director on a show. So make sure that you guys check that out in the next few days. But Yamamoto, you've got a bunch of other players that are coming over from the Far East that can pitch. You know, the Cubs could get in on that. I still think Blake Snell's a possibility. I know it's going to cost, but I don't think that the Cubs are afraid to do that. The good thing about where everything is right now, the infrastructure is there for the Cubs to spend. They just got to be smart about it. I mean, the Jameson Taillon contract last year to me wasn't a good deal. And then he got to Chicago at the end of the season. He came on, but you just never knew from start to start what you were going to get with him. You don't want to make another one of those signings. You want to make sure that you get somebody that's going to come in and be an impact arm and an impact starter, right? But the other thing you got to worry about is the health of starters. Not many of these guys are throwing the type of innings that we used to see, right? So if you're going to go out and get somebody, Tyler Glasnow, 124 innings or somewhere in that neighborhood and 21 starts, that to me doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that was his best. When he's pitching, he's great, but he's hurt a lot. Bieber with Cleveland, has, obviously dealt with his injury situation. He did come on at the end of last year and pitch. The velocity apparently was down a little bit, but he did have success and he did look healthy. So maybe with an off season, would the Cubs go out and make a deal for Dylan Cease? I don't know that they would. That trade has just been scrutinized so much, right? When you make a deal with the White Sox and you're in the same city, but he's got 2 years of control left. So there's some arms out there. I don't think that the Cubs are going to go through this without making some kind of a splash. What about JD Martinez? I know he hasn't been linked to the Cubs yet, but he had a pretty good year as the DH for the Dodgers. I know he's a right-handed bat, and you definitely want to get somebody left-handed for that lineup, but is he someone that the Cubs could go after? And the guy's had success. I mean, he's one of the best hitters when he's healthy and doing his thing.
One name that really just died off quick that I really liked as far as kicking it around was a Bo Bichette trade. Right. Remember that? That got hot for a few days and then just kind of fizzled, probably overshadowed by Ohtani. But it just kind of fizzled out. But that was one that I was very intrigued by, although Christopher Morel, seems to be playing well. I think it's Dominican ball that he's playing. But seems to be doing good. He's working on defense, been playing a lot of third base. And, the Cubs, to me, what seems to be linked up with the most, yes, like you mentioned, Snell is a possibility, Hader's a possibility. But the Cubs, as far as recent days, it keeps coming back to the Guardians. And so that's the one that, if you want to say there's any hype at all, that's the one spot where the Cubs could make their, quote, splash. I don't consider Rhys Hoskins a splash, but I think if you're looking like the Guardians may be it. And if the Guardians are looking for trade pieces, that might be a good combination where you go there for the trade and then maybe you do sign Bellinger to get that left-handed bat and spend money there. So we'll see what happens. But I think the Dodgers have just, from Friday when it was Blue Jays to now today being Wednesday or Tuesday, that's quite the swing the Dodgers have put on the National League,
Yeah. Good to see John Morosi back again. He kind of vanished after the I don't want to call it false, fake news. He just made a mistake or something happened. Maybe you just never know. You never know. And I like him. I always have liked him. I think he does a good job, but he just disappeared after that and then put out the, apology, tip of the cap, man, because it's happened to me before too. You just never know, man. You when you try to get there first and you make a mistake, sometimes you end up with, obviously with a red face, and that's definitely what happened to him. But I don't think the Cubs are out of this. The bottom line is this. is that the Cubs aren't out of this sweepstakes at all. And they're going to get some players this offseason. And maybe the safest bet is to go after someone who, just won the Cy Young and Blake Snell. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and some of you guys keep bringing this up, and I'm with you on this, Trevor Bauer. And he's he's obviously a guy who's polarizing, but he's been tremendous in Japan. He was framed, and why isn't his name being mentioned? Do you think he's
nowhere?
Do you think
connected to anyone?
Do you think that he's like mounting up a lawsuit to go after Major League Baseball for, basically falsely suspending him for the 2 years or whatever? Or is he blacklisted, or could he come back? I mean, I'm just curious because the guy still has a lot of gas left in the tank.
Yeah. I mean, if I was him, I don't know. If I was blacklisted, especially everything that he's proven, I don't understand. Why aren't people looking at him?
Yeah.
Even if, okay, he's not an ace, but as a 2-3, kind of guy, he's not worse than a 3. He's somebody's 3, worst case scenario, right? So I don't know. I'm with you, Mick. That's one we talked about before the offseason officially started. And to me, he just fits perfectly for the Cubs.
Right.
He's that perfect, 2-year, $25-30 million guy. And I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there, but he's that perfect setup for that. And then proves himself and goes and gets a 3 or a 4-year deal to finish out his career. That's a bigger number, maybe it's 100 million or something, but yeah, I don't know. It's a great point though. Bauer is somebody that, unless there's something behind the scenes, man, why is he not getting looked at?
Yeah. So that's kind of where we are right now with the process. We'll keep on covering this. Things can change in a minute. Bellinger, though, is now the next guy up as far as the beauty pageant goes. So he's going to get the look from Toronto. He's going to get the look from the Giants. I would not count the Cubs out on this at all. The front office knows what he can do. They like him. You're dealing with Scott Boras. That's definitely a negative. But at the same time, there's just not another player like him that's out there on the left-handed side of the plate. And I think we'd all love to see him back in a Cubs uniform. All right. Chad, tell us about Modern Lending.
13 years in this business, 10,000 families helped, $3 billion funded. But the most important, I love this story. It was just from yesterday where we talked to somebody. They had a great rate from a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, because of job situations and economy and things, they got in a lot of credit card debt to kind of stay afloat for the last year. And we refinanced them. So they took a higher rate on their mortgage, but saved, Mick, $600 a month on their budget. $600 a month on their budget. They paid off all their credit card debt. And again, $600 more in their pocket without the 28% credit cards hitting them every single month. So short and sweet today. That's the testimony. That's the story. It was fun. You could hear their excitement yesterday. That's what really makes the job fun, is hearing people get that excited.
Awesome. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you like and subscribe. And don't forget, our channel is also presented by the Tennessee Smokies, the Cubs AA affiliate. They want you to check out their team store. Do it at smokiesbaseball.com/team store.